Hello, I'm Janice Baker.
And I'm Malcolm Haslett. Are you having trouble with your computer and don't know how to solve it? Do you need help?
Hopefully, we'll answer your issues. And what is the Ghan Film Festival and why it's important to continue making shows for community television to cater for those people, stories and events that would not be covered by mainstream broadcasters next on our time.
I'm a worried man, Janice.
No. What's happened now?
Well, I've been getting all these weird emails because I filled in this survey for a well-known supermarket chain, thinking I'm doing the right thing, and now I'm suddenly getting emails from Russian brides. In fact, one today apologised for not responding to my email that I'd sent her.
Oh, no.
I mean to say, and it's not just Russian brides, there's a whole lot of other rubbish too. And fortunately, on this episode, we're going to be talking to Gerard Kanak and Nazar Rashid, who are from PCTV that airs on community television in Australia. I'm going to find out what to do to get rid of all those things coming into my computer.
But first, our guest with us now is Fahim Hashimy, and welcome to the program. I hope I got that right. Did I get it? I was
absolutely.
close.
Yeah, that was absolutely right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's great to have you on the program because you make community TV. And just go for a list of the programs you've been making.
First of all, thanks for inviting me for this program.
Oh, pleasure.
It's a great pleasure to be with you guys here. The programs I produce is, if I give it as a list, is Farda TV, Message TV, Ramadan TV, and of course we have a film festival, Ghan International Film Festival.
Yes, well, we'll talk about that a bit later, but talking about the main TV programs, you're making them for which community?
Well, Afghan, I make Farda TV program on Channel 44, which is for Afghan community. Mainly Afghan community, but a lot of Iranian, Pakistani, those people also watching us because the same language, obviously.
Yes, that have come from that part of the world, obviously.
Language is the common between us.
How important do you think it is to have television in languages of, wherever people have come from?
Oh, that is actually, a hugely important. Well, when we say language, is actually the way to communicate with the people. And there are people coming to this country, they cannot communicate other languages like English or...
Because they're new to the country.
New arrivals, refugees, or the elderly, the Afghan community who are coming, for example, age of over 50. It's very difficult to get to the language.
It must be very difficult because when you learn a language when you're young, it sticks with you for the rest of your life. If you learn two languages, like you speak a little French, but you're probably a bit too old to learn it.
I was, no.
In all seriousness?
No, that's true. It wasn't something that I learnt at school, so I didn't fall back into it. It's something I had to pick up later in life. So I've only really retained very little of it.
And I worked with a Russian company for about 5 months, and I could communicate a bit in Russian, and we shared sort of trying to learn each other's languages. But when you've only learnt one language, I guess you've only learnt one language over there, or are there multiple languages? Yeah,
imagine when we're talking about languages, I'm particularly talking about people who are age of 50 and they're coming to this country, especially women. They're not having that much
communication.
Well, the facilities to go out like the men do, you know what I mean?
Right.
So they just usually, because they're coming from the other countries, and they as a woman, the barriers always been in front of them, for example, in our countries, in Afghanistan or Iran, and they think here also to follow what the husband says.
Sure. Or to get used to a different culture, it's not that easy.
It's not easy, especially if they're coming over 50s. And those people are actually our main audience. In the TV
and I
programs.
guess it gives them a sense of being home, but it gives them a great comfort to feel, I know what they're saying. I can join in here. We
get a lot of feedback on that regard, though.
Yes,
a lot of feedback.
Sure.
When we're walking on the streets, even one night a year, if we don't have the programs on, then we get people everywhere asking us why the program was off. Then you realize how important it is. although it's volunteer, we're all working for free for the TV program, but there is something move us, you know what I mean? So something is moving you to do this.
We understand that.
As soon as you're not doing it, then the people will stop you everywhere, and then you feel some sort of responsibility to, well, if the people are actually watching me, this guy is from Afghanistan, for example, can't speak English, the only hope he has per week to watch the Afghan TV program and listen to their own language.
Yes.
Enjoy the time, and that's the main sort of tool that actually move us to go forward.
Absolutely understandable. So, did you have a TV background back in Afghanistan, or was this something that came since you came to Australia?
Well, I used to work for Reuters News in Afghanistan, so well, as a photographer and videographer over there. In Kabul, in Herat, and also I used to make documentary films.
How long have you been in Australia?
9 years.
Okay, so you're really still a recent
yes, I am.
Person coming here. Why did you choose Australia? Was there a reason?
Not particular reason. So as all Afghans or all people who migrate to other countries, they just go somewhere to have a better life, obviously, to be able to raise their children properly, better than the way we were. So
it's very hard for us to understand this because we've not, we've lived in a country that's been peaceful all of our lives, and it's certainly not in other parts of the world where Australians have gone. It's very hard for us to understand what it must be like.
And I think the Australian people, they should understand how lucky they are. In general, very, very lucky.
The trouble is, if you don't know the difference, you don't know how lucky you are.
That's exactly right.
We've both travelled quite a bit, and we've seen things in other countries, and you think, when you get back home, you think, what on earth are you whinging about? Like, everything is so brilliant here. We have great weather, we have great food, we have peace, we have security, we have a wandering government. However, we do...
That's the only thing you're wondering.
Exactly. So tell me about the Ramadan TV, because that must have been a huge thing to make happen.
Well, again, the community required somehow to fill the gap which was on the religion base or prayer base, especially for the month of Ramadan. 2013 was actually the beginning of the Ramadan TV, which is only 1 month a year, and this is the month of Ramadan or month of fasting, which people fast from early morning to sunset, obviously. We thought this is actually somehow, because Channel 44 was available and that was for community TV, we thought this is a very good platform to make sure that the Muslim community in general, when we say Muslim, then all Muslims, it doesn't matter which country they are from, or they needed to fulfill a gap, which was the prayer time for their fasting, breaking fasting, and start fasting. So this is two things, one sunset and sunrise.
So how many people were involved in putting this together?
3.
3?
3 people, yeah.
Just 3, and you had to provide how long a day?
40-minute program every day. So it's
twice a day?
Twice a day.
So 80 minutes worth a day?
Yeah, exactly. 80 minutes. Yeah, 80 minutes 40 minutes in the morning and 40 minutes at the evening. It was slightly different, but some part was actually repeated.
Similar, yes.
Yeah.
Did this go all around Australia or just here in South Australia?
In South Australia only.
Okay.
Yeah, well, on social media was everywhere.
Right. The reason I asked that is because if you were, or if you are in Queensland or in Perth or in Victoria, of course you can easily dial up by going to C44 in Adelaide and still achieve the same thing.
Yeah.
So they can see what you're doing nationally. That's the good thing, actually, about being online.
And also Ramadan TV has a Facebook page, which is by the name of Ramadan TV, and every show we was broadcasting on Channel 44, that was live on Facebook Live.
On Facebook Live. Oh, brilliant. Now, you also have instigated the Ghan Film Festival. Well, I say Ghan, you say Ghan. But I'm clearly far better educated.
God, he's rude sometimes. What do you say? How do you call it?
Well, let's put it this way, because why we said Ghan is coming from Afghan, right?
Yeah, so when we say isn't it Afghanistan?
Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it depends how you pronounce it.
Yes, anyway.
Yeah, Afghanistan.
It's all right.
Please.
And if it's in Persian, it says Afghanistan.
Oh, there you are. But there's an R in there rather than an
And then it says Gha. So, yeah.
So the film festival has just been, hasn't it, here in South Australia. And this is a film festival that you've instigated to try and pull not only your community together, but to pull all communities together.
Again, we just thought that there's actually a gap between our community to have some sort of a bit deeper cultural understanding of each other. And we thought the film is the best way to communicate with the people. And we wanted to just put something together, and film festival, especially Gan Film Festival, come up because of the history of Afghan in this country. As you know, Afghan cameleers came to Australia 1860s. And,
Yes.
And I made a documentary by the name of the Afghan cameleers in Australia, which actually covered all the story of Afghans in Australia from 1860 to 1920.
It's an amazing history that a lot of Australians have no idea of, that the camels in Australia came because of the Afghanistan cameleers coming over here and transporting stuff across the desert.
Exactly.
We had no other way of getting supplies, people and so on across the country.
That's exactly right, and that was the reason when I did the Afghan cameleers, everywhere we go, we was just saying Gun Town, especially in the outback of Australia, was Gun Town, Gun Mosque, Gun Shed, and Gun this, and Gun Train.
Yes.
And when you go a bit further, you see this is because of they remove AF from the front of it, it become Gun. Otherwise, it was Afghan.
You said Gun then. Listen, good luck with that. That's I mean, that festival for next year. So we can find all of that online and find out how to be part of the festival. And also your shows. If you just check out the Channel 44 website, you'll find where the programs are, and you'll be doing Ramadan next year, I guess.
Oh yeah, every year we're doing, if Channel 44 is available.
Well, we
Good
hope
stuff.
so.
Thank you so much for being part
No
of our
worries. I just wanted to tell you about the Gan Film Festival will be 2018 again. So that would be films from Afghanistan, Syria, and perhaps from Palestine. Yeah. And next year, we are going to have it not just in Adelaide, we are going to cover Melbourne too. So
Brilliant. Isn't that good?
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Australia's a very lucky country, and we'll be back to find out more about what makes my computer tick. Hello and welcome back to Our Time. Our guests right now are Nazar Rashid and Jared Kanak, who are from PCTV. Now, we had a chat a couple of weeks ago, and at the time, we just ran out of time, didn't we?
We did run out of time. It's good.
Yes. So your name?
Oh, I'm Jared.
No, just
Sorry,
people who didn't see the other program.
I'm Jared.
And I'm Nazar.
See, I was being very clever there. I thought, never mind. Does that happen in your program?
Yes.
You think you're going in one direction and it just goes somewhere else?
More often than not,
Perfect
actually.
material for the blooper reel.
Yeah.
Okay, we haven't got one of those.
Oh.
Because we're so perfect we never make
Oh.
Well, unfortunately we do.
Oh, that's true.
We endeavour to. Yeah.
Now, look, computers are a problem for a lot of people who weren't brought up with computers, like me. We learnt to read and write and do arithmetic all with a pen in our hand, and literally it was a pen that we dipped into ink and wrote with and added up in our heads, and had to learn to spell correctly and not use a computer to help us do all of those things. And then suddenly, halfway through our lives, we suddenly have these brilliant things in our homes or in our workplace that we had to learn to use. I didn't learn to use a keyboard. I went to a WEA course to learn to type, which I would advise anybody to do, because there's nothing worse than doing the one-finger number.
Yep.
As you learn. And that slows you down for learning everything. And these days you actually have to be quite fast. So what are some of the other pitfalls that people can fall into with a computer?
Well, we can talk about ransomware. That's kind of topical, and it's happened recently. What happens then is people will get an email, and within that email there'll be a link or an attachment, and when you click on that link or attachment, what will happen is you give permission to the nefarious user to encrypt your entire hard drive. And so what that basically means is it changes everything that was in your hard drive gets covered with gobbledygook, and you can no longer read it, and they will want you to pay a ransom, hence ransomware, to allow them to unencrypt your hard drive. And the way to combat that is, first of all, be very careful what you're clicking onto when it's an attachment or a link.
Read it carefully first. Yes.
Prevention is the most important thing you could possibly do, especially for a home user that doesn't have an IT background or whatever. Then prevention is your #1 priority. So first of all, be wary. Don't click on things that you're suspect about or that you don't know really who it is that's sending you this particular email.
So in an email form, if you don't know the sender, don't read it. Don't bother.
Especially don't click on links and attachments that they might have. And if you do, you can do a few things. If your computer is up to date with patches and updates, then usually that sort of stuff is mitigated.
Okay, just go back a step, because these are the things that most people have trouble with, that when we explain things, we all move too fast because we know what we're talking about.
The terminology and so forth.
But they don't. So just go back to what you just said.
Sure. So with patches and updates, you'll find little pop-ups come up and saying, new updates have been downloaded for your computer from Microsoft.
Now stop there, because this ransomware could even pop up like that, could it?
Not as likely. I suppose it's possible, but usually you'll see within Windows or Apple iOS, like whatever you're using, a verified little balloon. It's not in an email.
That comes in on the right-hand side of your screen?
Usually. And the other things to patch as well is not just your operating system, but like the browser that you use. So people have Chrome, Opera, Vivaldi, all sorts of browsers now. A lot of the updates, and particularly if they say security related, do them. Don't put them off. I mean, it's easy to go later.
Yeah.
But for example, the one that hit the UK quite recently, the National Health Service.
Yes.
Right, huge cryptoware.
WannaCry.
WannaCry, that's exactly right, was what it was called out. I think a lot of people wanted to cry.
Yeah.
That could have been largely mitigated if systems had been patched and kept up to date.
Right.
So that used what's called an exploit.
So if your computer, basically, if your computer is asking to be upgraded with new information that's relevant to the program, and if it comes from the provider of the service you have, Apple or Microsoft, then you really need to click on it virtually straight away.
You should.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what might be sitting in your box. Would those things be stimulated because of perhaps emails coming in that shouldn't be? Or they just come in as part of...
Oh, these organisations employ literally armies of people, and now a lot of artificial intelligence to probe and attempt to break their systems. Right, so that they can get on the front foot.
This is why if you're doing something and those little squiggly letters come up that want you to reproduce, so they know it's not a robot talking back to them.
Yes. Yep, that's exactly right. However, robots are getting good at reading captures now, so we're going to have to come up with something new again.
Well, now you get like diagrams that say, click on the diagrams that show, let's say, a car, because robots can't do it. So they have like 6 or 7 pictures, and then there'll be 1 or 2 of them that have like a car in it, and it says click on the ones that have a car in order to fool the robots that are getting so much more sophisticated every day.
And the robots are there because they're tracking to try and get into your computer to do those things of ransomware that we were talking before.
They're doing all sorts of things now.
All sorts of things.
Probably they capture a lot of now what's called metadata. So that's the peripheral data about you, Malcolm. You know, it might be the model of your phone.
Perfect. It'd just be perfect.
The type of computer you use, the locations you use it from, because everyone has a GPS on there. And a lot of the time, if they're not doing outright criminal stuff, the sort of quasi-legal stuff will be to send you targeted advertising.
Yeah.
Oh, look, that's coming from everywhere, though. The phone, we're ringing you because you had an accident, and we're the insurance, and all of those things. You think, well, I didn't have an accident. What are you talking about? So very easy to get caught in those. In fact, just today, somebody rang me up wanting information. They had my name. I don't know where they got it from, but they were asking me how old I was. So immediately I knew it wasn't me that they knew. My name had popped up somewhere, and they were using that to get information that...
Try and create a more complete profile of you.
Yes, and what's hard about that is you're talking to a real person on the other end of the phone, in this case. I know it's not computer, but in a way it's computer-driven because they're looking at a computer that's got your information on it, and they're just trying to get more out of you.
Well, sometimes they will use that. They'll try to ring you up, and certain financial institutions, for example, will use voice recognition. So they'll get you to say key words over the phone. Like they'll say, "Can you say yes?" Or or they'll structure a question where the answer is yes, or say your name out loud, and then they'll be able to use that in order to crack the voice recognition in your financial institution.
So if you were concerned about that, should you be really saying, "Look, give me your email address and I'll email you back"? Would that be a solution?
If someone rang you that was unsure?
Well, either that or you've got something. No, because if you open an email that's got something in it, you shouldn't do that. No,
ultimately, delete and
so
ignore.
I've just opened it. Yes.
A lot of phone scams will ring up and say, "Oh, we've noticed that your computer has a virus.
Yes,
we'll help you out."
Yeah.
I have a 95-year-old friend who keeps getting those calls, and she doesn't even have a computer.
Ever true.
Oh, well, there you go.
She's got another very funny line that she says after that.
That's a pretty good one, actually.
Can you say it on air?
No, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't.
No.
You know who you are.
Well, and the other best thing that you can do is just to make sure that you take regular backups of your computer.
Yes.
If you have...
So this is with an external hard drive?
Yeah.
That's one way of doing
Right.
it.
Or you can do it into the cloud.
Now you can do it into the cloud.
Right.
But there isn't really a cloud, it's just another batch of computers somewhere.
right.
Someone else's computer.
Yeah, that's right.
I suppose the fear of that, for me, the fear of that is, what if something does go wrong, like is starting to happen around the world, where the medical files were all, the ransomware business with that, the issue that the Australians doing what we've recently just done, the census,
the Bureau of
crashed everything
Statistics,
because there was too many people
Denial
trying
of service,
to get on.
they call that. Yeah.
All of that. So the point that we should make, though, is don't be afraid of your computer.
No.
Yeah, that's right. It's, as we said before, maybe a healthy scepticism.
Yes.
So just like you would go to any public place and you wouldn't 100% trust it, but you also wouldn't 100% fear it. The internet's like that.
Yeah.
And I mean...
And you would lock your door at night before you went to sleep.
Well, that's exactly
Correct.
right.
And make sure your windows was safe and all of those things. So it's really just a different way of thinking. The same as we were saying at the beginning of the segment, I learned to write with a pen and ink on paper.
Yes.
And now all of that's changed. I don't use that anymore. I type. It's the same sort of logic, really. We used to keep our doors closed. We need to do that same sort of logic with our computers.
And we still do. And just like you pulled the shades down for privacy, then you do the similar sort of thing digitally by making sure that you have backups, making sure that your computer systems are patched and upgraded, making sure that your antivirus software is up to date. These little things you can do are the equivalent of pulling down the blinds, locking the door, closing the screen door. All of these things, it's just a digital way of doing it.
Just a digital way of thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, anybody who is, if you have an issue at home and you just don't know where to go, where do people go? Like you guys have a practice here in South Australia, but I'm sure there are people like you all around the country. What should we be looking for to help us either in the home or on the phone to resolve some of the issues they might have?
A lot of your banking institutions will actually have on their websites things to look out for scams. And key tips and tricks that you can use in order to make sure that you're not being tricked.
Right.
And so that's your first port of call. Then the Australian government has got ScamWatch.
The ScamWatch.
And that's brilliant.
There's
When you click on there, you see a lot of the things come up.
Hoax Slayer is another one that's been around for a long time. But really, these days, if you're unsure of a given email, you can take aspects, one that went through a lot was supposedly came from the Australian Federal Police about a tax infringement, and everyone gets worried that it's them. They open the email. If you just Google AFP tax infringement hoax, you will get a list.
Yes.
And if it is a hoax and known, you'll find a site that shows a picture of that exact email you got.
Yes,
and so
exactly.
Forth. Yeah, so just
well, guys,
check.
thank you very much. It's been great to talk to you in this environment rather than watch your show. But I could encourage you and will encourage you, if you get a chance to see PCTV on community television, you'll see these two guys. Thanks for joining us on Our Time.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Thank you, Malcolm.
It was an interesting program all round.
I'll say. Do you think you've sorted yourself?
Well, I hope so. And it is so easy to get caught. The dangerous thing, though, is, and we keep saying this on this program because of Facebook, but the real danger is that we can be afraid to use our computers in the best possible way. And they're great to communicate with people, the same as Facebook. Speaking of which, you can find us on Facebook. You can also find us on
YouTube.
And there's a whole pile of programs that have passed, and you can find, we're now putting the names of the people who are in the programs on YouTube, so you can find the people's names that you may be looking for. But we'd also love to hear from you if you know of somebody that would be of interest to tell the whole of Australia their story.
Yes, through our community television, this is what we try to achieve. So,
it's great today to have had 2 program makers from community television. Remember that community television is all made by volunteers. Therefore, the people really believe in what they're actually,
trying to bring across to you.
Of course, and the fact that there's such a wide variety. And in the last few weeks, you learnt about video games.
Yes, I've had fun.
Oh, really? I could just imagine you there with the cars or the whatever.
No, not that.
No, needlepoint. No, you didn't do that?
No, I'll tell you later.
But we would love to hear from you too. So don't be afraid to send us a message, because knowing that you're watching is really valuable. Become a friend on Facebook and share the programs with your friends, and that will mean that we can spread the program a lot further. And the beauty is that now there's a platform for community television, you can watch us and any other program that you know about on community television. Where?
Where?
Yeah.
On YouTube?
Yeah, no.
And Facebook?
No.
On
yes.
Channel 44?
Yes, but how?
Where?
On
what?
Everywhere in the world. On your computer, on your phone,
you were trying
anywhere.
to get to then.
Till next time, keep yourself nice until we see you then.
Yes, take care.
Bye.